In the snow-capped Alps of Austria, 1705, the village of Puchberg am Schneeberg lay nestled in the mountains, its wooden chalets and steeples shrouded in a thick veil of mist. The villagers lived simple lives, relying on the land for their livelihood, and whispering tales of ancient myths and legends around the fire at night. In a small cottage on the outskirts of the village, a young woman named Elizabeth lived with her husband, Johann, a skilled mountaineer and hunter. Theirs was a love story woven into the fabric of the mountains, with Johann often taking Elizabeth on treks through the rugged terrain, pointing out hidden waterfalls and secret meadows. One winter evening, as the snowdrifts grew deeper and the winds howled through the valleys, Johann failed to return from a hunt. Elizabeth waited anxiously, her eyes fixed on the door, but as the hours ticked by, she grew increasingly worried. She bundled up and set out into the storm, calling out Johann's name, but the only response was the eerie silence of the snow-covered mountains. Days passed, and Johann's disappearance remained a mystery. The villagers searched the mountains, but the heavy snowfall had erased all signs of his trail. Elizabeth, consumed by grief and worry, began to experience strange occurrences. She would hear the sound of Johann's whistle, a distinctive tune he used to signal his return, echoing through the valleys at dusk. She would see glimpses of a figure in the distance, clad in Johann's hunting gear, but whenever she approached, there would be no one. As the nights wore on, the villagers whispered among themselves about the return of the Berggeist, a malevolent spirit said to haunt the mountains, seeking revenge on those who dared to venture into its domain. They spoke of a dark figure, tall and imposing, with eyes that glowed like embers from the underworld. Elizabeth, however, refused to believe that Johann was gone. She felt an inexplicable connection to the mountains, as if the land itself was trying to communicate with her. One evening, as the moon cast a silver glow over the Schneeberg, Elizabeth decided to follow the sound of Johann's whistle, which seemed to be coming from the top of the mountain. The climb was treacherous, the snow knee-deep and the winds fierce, but Elizabeth pressed on, driven by a sense of determination and love. As she reached the summit, she saw a figure standing at the edge of the precipice, shrouded in shadows. The whistle sounded again, and Elizabeth approached cautiously, her heart pounding in her chest. The figure slowly turned, its face deathly pale, with eyes that seemed to bore into Elizabeth's soul. It was Johann, or what remained of him. His skin was frozen, his eyes black as coal, and his voice a low, mournful whisper. "I am trapped between worlds," he said, his words carried away by the wind. "The Berggeist has claimed me, and I am doomed to roam these mountains, forever searching for a way back to you." Elizabeth, horrified yet filled with compassion, reached out to her husband. As their hands touched, a blinding flash of light illuminated the mountain, and the wind died down. In that instant, Elizabeth felt the weight of the Berggeist's curse lift, and Johann's spirit was finally at peace. The next morning, the villagers found Elizabeth at the foot of the mountain, her eyes closed, a peaceful smile on her face. They buried her beside Johann, in a grave marked by a simple wooden cross, and whispered stories of their love and sacrifice, which echoed through the valleys for generations to come. To this day, hikers and climbers report seeing the ghostly figure of a woman, dressed in 18th-century attire, walking the trails of the Schneeberg, her eyes fixed on the summit, as if searching for something, or someone, lost in the mists of time. They call her the Bergfrau, the mountain woman, and whisper that on certain nights, when the moon is full and the winds are still, you can hear the sound of a whistle, echoing through the valleys, a reminder of the enduring love between Elizabeth and Johann, forever bound to the mountains they called home.